Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. You can already tell by the way that I'm speaking that I'm a little bit mentally and physically exhausted. I just got back from PAX East. I sat down and watched the NALCS finals. I haven't gotten to watch the EULCS finals for League of Legends since I got back, but I'm super tired. I'm not doing this live this week, so it's just going to be what looks to be like 8 questions coming out of the forums, and for once, I'm actually pretty grateful for that. I have some videos coming down the line this week. Obviously, there was the new announcements with Final Fantasy 15 and their plans for the rest of the year. We have the live letter coming up this Saturday. There's a few things that happened at PAX that I definitely want to make videos on, including a new Dauntless video, because I'm a Dauntless partner and I haven't made content for them in quite a few months. So that's just some of the things that are going to be coming down the line this week, as well as I'll finally get started, at least, on the physical, ranged physical DPS versus, and then the melee versus I want to get out before 4.3, although I'll probably have to remake it depending on what changes actually happen in that patch. Before we get started with the Q&A though, I want to do my sponsor shoutouts for those over on Patreon. You guys have been supporting me through thick and thin. Everyone has, but you guys have also gone above and beyond, so we do these shoutouts here either at the beginning or the end of Mondays with Mrhappy, and depending on your tier, State of the Realm as well. We of course have our Patron of Art, which sounds worse every week I do it. Khuja Cross of the Jenova server, thank you so much for your continued support. I think I have a picture. If I don't have a new picture, I think I got, actually, I think this is the picture from last Tuesday, I want to say, from State of the Realm. I think I got a new picture for State of the Realm. If not, I'll, whatever most recent picture I have, I'll check my emails for it, for Khuja Cross, but thank you for the support. We, of course, have 3 tiers of sponsors as well. We have our standard sponsors, starting off with Red Wings of the Baron FC. Let me move this over here so I can speak into the microphone while I say it. Red Wings of the Baron FC from Zalera. We have Fray Blackheart. We have Cidus, Oreo, and Shiva. We have Syd Hellwind of Gilgamesh. We have Afro Ninja from Malboro. We have Cheesecake from Leviathan. We have Sploda, That Lame Weeb, Ashen, Emiya of Cerberus, Argoti, Tristam of Midgardsormr, Fafarian, Rendil, Giraffeswillrule, Stevie-Rex, and Neon. Moving on to our elite sponsors, we have Sarah and the Avalanche family on Malboro. We have Johnny Odin of Tonberry. We have Nyrek Vizsla, the Emerald Dragoon. We have Kefka and the Grey Eagles on Exodus. We have Dark Graver, Katayoshi from Khuja, Skia Symphonia from Ragnarok, Rah Xephon from Exodus, Rynoet Westos, the Purple Warrior, Yadric Redsteel on Exodus, Lexxie Valentine, Mantaru and the Rivivus FC from Zodiark, Sour Cream and Chives from Jenova, Rynoet Chikara, Goetia Valfer of Siren, Hirsch First of Fairy, Phoenix Down Free Company on Goblin, Saren from Zodiark, and that's it for the Elite. I guess I didn't have the right separation between the two. Finally, we have our premium sponsors. We have Diablo, we have Holy Tabasco, we have Red Thorn Asura, Current Ioni, Asken Hawk from Shiva, Oscar, Crass015, Mustang, the Serenity FC on Ultros, Kat Kazuma, Kiriyoshi, and the Reckless Tea Party on Cactar, Ignis Fairgun from the Diablo server, Balestra of Famfrit, Nox Cordis from Excalibur, Krobos Moonscar, Nakanayame of Balmung, Private Mikey, Spike, Nadine Kirasame, Rudy Rudiger, Tin Colossus, Killer Hackman, Raul Jr., Ramil Gaming, and Kiltastic Jones. Thank you to everyone who's continued to support over on Patreon. And I got to meet some of those people that were on that list at PAX East this last weekend, so hopefully you all enjoyed the convention and hopefully you all got home safe. Without further ado, let's get through these 8 or so questions and I can relax a little bit after traveling for 6 hours today. Alright, so our first question looks to be a roulette of some kind. Welcome back from PAX, and yes, your answer last week was indeed adequate. Is it bad that I forget the question most of the time, unless you remind me? Either way, I'm glad to hear it worked out. So it looks like we've got a few questions here that I can choose between books, Asuna, or Hashmal, or an unintended joke question. I don't want to take a joke question. Books I don't understand. I don't read, so not the greatest of reasons, I suppose, because I'd imagine it's not about actual books. But I guess I'll take Asuna. Let's see. With Protect disappearing and getting reworked, which by the way is not confirmed, it just makes a lot of sense to do that, and they have considered it. It's still not guaranteed to this day whether or not it will be disappeared or getting reworked, although people are definitely requesting it. Should we expect that they do something with Asuna too? I mean, the game even tells you what's Asunable and what's not. I think Asuna being optional is kind of stupid. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Asuna becoming a role action. By the time you know you need it, you've already made the mistake of not taking it most of the time. So I know that when I go into content I haven't done as a healer, I just assume there will be something Asunable. And if there is, then great. I took it and everyone's like, oh, thank goodness you took Asuna. If I don't, then I pretty much have no way of correcting that issue on the spot. Yeah, I feel like they probably, I don't think they could do it the same way they do Protect. I think that Protect is a little almost too linear of a sense. For Asuna, though, I'm wondering if it becoming an action that, you know, isn't just exclusive to healers becomes a potential option. For example, combat reses would be something that isn't necessarily healer exclusive that could be, I guess, made available, so that way, you know, you can have a healer that has Asuna, but you could also have, you know, a DPS that has Asuna, or a role action that's available across the other roles. But if you, I guess if you take it away from the healers as a role action, give it to the others, it doesn't really make sense. In my head, it makes more sense to do that, but looking at the way the game state has evolved to it the way it is right now, it also doesn't at the same time. I like to see it be less of an optional button, though. I think taking it away from the jobs was kind of an underwhelming thing to do, and making it a role action, but I mean, I guess it is still situational, and that's kind of what role actions do. So I don't know, I want them to do something different with Asuna, just I guess so it's not a matter of did I take it, did I not, when I'm blind into a fight. But at the same time, it kind of is exactly what a role action is supposed to be, a situational skill. Although, let's be honest, like 4 of the 5 we select are like non-situational, so 50-50 on my wording there. Alright, question number 2. Yo, what's up, Paps? Hey. So I've been playing on PS4 since the game came out. I want to ask you a question about it. I'm looking to get into raiding again after a little hiatus. So what DPS job do you think performs best on a console controller? Right now, my Ninja and Shikuchi feels wonky to use on a controller. Also, is there still a dislike for PS4 players among raiders or statics? Do you know any top performers that are on PS4? I know top performers who use controllers. I guess I can't say that I don't know any, but I guess I've never asked if they are top performers on PS4. I guess I never really ask people what they're playing on. You either play well or you don't. You know, that's it for me. I don't really try to dig any deeper. As for which DPS is best, I guess this is also a tough answer. A, I don't play on controller, so I almost feel unqualified to answer. But B, I've seen so many players do things like the way they handle playing on controller in such an impressive way that it feels wrong for me to say that a job can't be done on controller, or a job is definitely better on controller. So I know a few PS4 monks that do really well, and that's a job that seems to go over. Dragoon, I've also seen on PS4 also do really well. I'd say of the DPS, Ninja's the only one where I see people say on controller they're not really a big fan. Some people say the PS4, I guess, makes the mudras take a little bit longer, or if you don't have a stable enough connection on your PS4, you don't have the option to VPN to get a better connection. At least not without doing some insane workaround stuff. So Ninja's regularly, I'm told controller players move away from it, specifically PS4 players. So Monk and Dragoon, I'd assume Samurai's fine on controller. Black Mage is probably perfectly fine. Summoner I don't know, because pet controls are always wonky. Summoner and Scholar are always like, eh. And then for the ranged, I don't see an issue with ranged on PS4, both Machinist and Bard. I don't really see why either of those would pose a problem. I guess the only jobs that I'd be a little cautious about are probably Ninja and Summoner in terms of just the DPS, because of just odd things, certain elements that aren't necessarily the job itself, but just the way the PS4 interacts with the servers, or its a lack of ability to interact with the servers. All right, question number 3. Hey, Happy Face, hope you're doing fine today. Tired, but I'll get through it. So, and hopefully you're having a good one too. So here goes or nothing. Okay, I think I know what you meant to say, but there you go. My question is a touchy question. I feel a bit bad asking it, but whatever. Okay, let's see what this is. Whatever. Alright, so I've been raiding with my current static since early Stormblood. We have cleared a 1 through 4 Savage together last raid tier, and we just cleared 08 Savage. Congratulations. But my logs are kind of bad. Sure, they slowly improve the more time I kill and practice boss, you know, up towards 55-70%. But all on our first time kills, I normally get grays. I can't help but feel like I'm leeching, despite using Mana Soul in good times, Palisade, 20% heal at good points. We wipe if I don't use my other utilities, you know. But getting gray logs on every single first kill, I can't help but feel like I'm leeching. What do you think? P.S. Scroll all you doubters who said we couldn't kill God Kefka because we have 3 melee DPS and me as the only ranged DPS. We just got good and dealt with it. Hashtag humblebrag, hashtag celebration. So this is usually, when you're going for the win, a lot of the times, I'd say the average, even the higher tier players, that they'll try to squeeze out the DPS, but there is always some degree of safer play. You know, you generally hear it in comms, you know, just play it safe, you know, make sure we get through this if it's something that's been a regular road bump. And anytime you're playing it safe, it usually translates to, my DPS is probably going down here. I'm probably doing something that would be considered suboptimal, even though I know that I'm doing something, I could be doing something a lot better. in a lot of the player base, that sort of consciousness of doing that is not so much there. So when people see their logs afterwards and they see they're, I guess, pretty low, even though they've cleared the fight, some people like you look at that and go, man, where did I screw all that up? I felt fine while I was doing the fight. But there's always little things. Now, clearly you're the range DPS, so some of what I'm going to say doesn't apply. But as a melee, for example, losing uptime to dodge a mechanic more safely is lost auto attacks, lost GCDs. For range, it could be as simple as not knowing exactly how to transition between certain parts of the fight. In the case of Bard, you know, maybe not upkeeping your dots as well as you could, maybe not lining up your buffs exactly the way you wanted to, maybe letting certain things fall off or using them at inopportune times because you're more focused on the mechanics at hand and less on pressing the buttons. Those are all common things, especially for first kills. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, everyone who gets first kills are gray when they do it, especially because the people who kill it early on are usually first adopters, and there's not really a chance for them to have gray parses like people who clear it later down the line, like you and your group. So I wouldn't be too beat up about it. The fact that you're even conscious of it is still a step above a lot of other players, and something I regularly use in my answers when people talk about doing suboptimal DPS is being aware and seeing that you have room for improvement is the first step. The second thing is to honestly go back and watch your own kills and go, oh man, why did I do that like that? Oh man, I shouldn't have done that. And yeah, that sucks because that's not different from a first kill, but what you should be trying to do is isolating the things you found yourself doing on first kills consistently and then working on those in subsequent raid tiers and subsequent boss fights. It's all about study and practice, and I know it's a game and that doesn't exactly sound fun, but if that's where your focus is, then you'll probably have fun working on those improvements going forward. I will say that again, if you kill the raid tier very fast, you're much less likely to have gray parses than the people who do kill it like in a pretty reasonable amount of time, because now your parses are going up, not just going up against first time kill parses, they're going up against people who have optimized, they're going against people who have more gear, people who have weapons, and it's a little different. I don't know exactly how different because I haven't been in that situation since, I guess, Midas, but yeah, you got to keep in mind it's not as simple a factor as you might be thinking that it is. Question number 4, Ayo, my dude, finger guns. Do we need slash finger guns in game? That would be $7 on the Mog Station. And we also need hashtag LA motorcycles. That could be the cloud bike. But anyway, got a bit of a weird one for you. But yeah, basically, whenever I go into the housing district and play our own house, we seem to disconnect from the game. This mainly happens 90% of the time because I always hang out at my house, at a friend's house or FC house to avoid Limsa. This be my connection to the servers, bugging the game, or something else to do with the servers. So first of all, I'd highly recommend for any issue like this going immediately to Square Enix, because they actually have access to, I guess, game information and can make more solidified recommendations. What it sounds like to me is something about the way your ISP hops to the servers where, or hops to the instances where the housing servers are located. There's something funky there. My number one recommendation is just go to the forums, and they have, I guess, a little template you can fill out. You have to fill it out very exactly or it tends to get ignored, but it'll ask you things like who your ISP is, what's your average, you know, what time of day do you play, things like that. And Square Enix actually has a dedicated team that contacts the ISPs and tries to work out those issues. Obviously, new issues pop up all the time, you know, things that are out of their control. They don't have they can't constantly monitor it, but it's better to do that and, you know, maybe see some sort of resolution than to just sit around waiting until it naturally resolves itself, which sometimes happens, but doesn't always happen. Question number 5. Howdy, Hapster. In Stormblood, we've seen a bit of a design change in Extreme Savage where bosses show you all their mechanics at a pretty early point in the fight and then begin repeating them. Maybe deadlier combinations, such as now you have to dodge missiles at the same time killing Ultros, but it's still the same Ultros and missiles. Do you agree with my theory that the entire reason this exists is to make sure players can't possibly skip mechanics? Since mechanic skipping was a huge thing near the end of Heavensward with Zervan, it was a big deal before that, and I'll get into that in the answer. A11 Savage, A12 Savage. Right now you can still end a fight earlier than in Rage with high DPS, but you still have to deal with every mechanic at least once before you can kill it, even with very high DPS. So I do think that's part of it, but I don't think that's the only thing. A lot of things that we've moved towards as time has gone on, and especially with Stormblood, they made huge leaps for this, is teaching players how a fight is meant to be handled. Whenever you hop into a new fight, there's the expectation that it's a puzzle you have to solve, and you have to put all the pieces together, and once you've done that, then you can complete it. Now, with previous fights, it was basically every different phase was its own puzzle, whereas now they want the whole fight to be a singular puzzle. Generally, you have this first half of the fight is this. Then you have like the halfway point, which could be anything, you know, from the siren mechanic in 06 Savage. It could be when Phantom Train disappears and you have to do the thing with the cars and the ghosts. It could be when there could be the virus program, and for God Kefka, it would probably be Third Forsaken, because that's when all of a sudden he rewinds behind the Trines and then goes back to the Third Forsaken again. So that they've moved into doing that because you're basically teaching the players how each of the mechanics in the game works, and then asking them to do it in either a faster or more efficient way later in the fight, you know, crammed back to back, you know, small Trine, big Trine, slightly different combinations there, the Super Forsaken into the DPS and Rage, and asking them to, you know, have enough DPS to overcome those things and kill the boss on time. So I do think your part of it is absolutely a part of it. You know, even going back to turn 7 and first coil, second coil, skipping mechanics has been a thing for a very long time between primals and coil and everything. So it got really bad in Midas, I guess, and then I'm sorry, especially in Creator. But at the same time, it was a problem way before that. So your part's part of it, but I also think that they want to better teach you how a fight is designed and then apply it in a different way in the second half, instead of you trying to learn every single phase and everything's new every time you reach it, and there's almost like all the knowledge you have from the prior phases is completely irrelevant. They're trying to avoid that being a thing. Question number 6. You mentioned last week that it's never good to, quote, delay a GCD, unquote, on Monk. So that means you should always try to use a GCD when they're up, even if you're not going to hit the positional. I will admit I've oftentimes hesitated to use a GCD because I want to hit the positional. I think if you, I'm pretty sure in the full answer last week, I specifically commented on regardless of hitting the positional. It may have been in a later part. I feel like I answered it. It could have been somewhere else that I remember answering it. But the general rule of thumb is, yes, you never want to delay a GCD, because every time you do that, you're basically adding up missed time until you've missed an entire GCD. So every time you delay 0.5 seconds because you couldn't get to the positional and you really wanted to get that crit, and you do that 5 times in a fight, well, you just lost the whole GCD. And that GCD could have been a direct hit or a crit. You do it a few more times, then you miss 2 GCDs, then you miss 3, 4. And it's just a habit that keeps adding up over the course of a fight. And it's a lot of potency to be missing, especially in Monk, where you have all these stacking damage buffs that really, you know, pile on top of the potency, the base potencies that you have. So when it comes to Monk, generally, if it's impossible to reach a positional due to some sort of mechanic, maybe you have to stack in a certain spot, maybe your strategy has you leave melee range, whatever, not much you can really do there. The best you can do is try to make sure you don't lose stacks and that you get back to the boss in as little time as possible. However, when it comes to strictly having 100% uptime and worrying about where you are on the boss, and you have full freedom to hit the positional, and it's just about how quick you move, that becomes the thing you have to focus target. And this isn't just true on Monk, it's true on any job. If you find that you're on the flank and you're doing, like, I guess we'll just say you're doing Snap Punch, and you're going to be doing Boot Shine on the rear next, you should, as soon as you hit Dragon Kick, you should be moving to, as soon as you hit Snap Punch, you should be moving to the rear, because as soon as you hit that skill, your positional has registered. So you shouldn't be waiting till the whole animation finishes and you see the damage numbers over the head and then move. You should be moving as soon as you click the skill and you're sure that you're in the right spot and that it has been executed. So that's the number one thing to work on with Monk and positionals. If you're struggling with that and you're someone who is worried about delaying GCDs, just look on how you can move to the positional faster. And if you can't, True North. True North is, you know, a pretty long cooldown. I think it's 2.5 minutes off the top of my head. But it's still, you can use it to get several GCDs, and depending on what GCDs they are, it could be a lot of gained potency over those 15 seconds every 2.5 minutes. So don't shy away from using it. Just make sure you understand where you want to use it on specific fights. All right, next question. Ayo, Haps, you get 2 bonuses this week. The first one, sorry about that long-ass fucking question last week. At least you gave Cliff Notes version, so first bonus is a much shorter question from me this week, and only one of them, and a bag of goldfish crackers. They were on sale for $1 a bag, so I bought a fuck ton of them. I love goldfish, and combos, the little pretzels with the cheese in them. I love those, so thank you. And second bonus is not a tombstone pizza, because in that clusterfuck of a long question, I somehow spelled tombstone as tombstone, and I played this game for too long, fucked that up. But maybe you should do like a swear jar for anyone that messed that up. Also, I know the tombstone pizzas are crap, but the pun wouldn't work again if I gave you DiGiorno's. So I'll give the. So what's the question? As soon as I trip over my words, that's it. I gotta move on to the question. So on to the question. Here we go. Assuming we get 2 new classes, jobs, we don't get classes anymore. I know it's a technicality. I know what you meant. Of DPS healer, tank, and dinner, what roles do you think those classes would fill? Well, I'd love them to fill dinner, but I'm going to write that one out. Do you think they'll go tank healer, or do we get at least 1 DPS and go with a new tank or healer? So my gut wants to tell me 1 tank, new healer. I think the general feedback in regards to them doing double DPS, even though it didn't turn out that poorly over a longer period of time, like they said it wouldn't, is that, people were they were outraged that we got only 2 DPS. Like, only 2 jobs I don't think bothers people as much as 2 jobs within the same role. Now, with DPS, it is the most played role. It's just players gravitate towards DPS naturally in MMOs, so it makes sense. But we're at 3 tanks, 3 healers in a game that only allows 2 tanks and 2 healers per raid fight, and then in dungeons, only 1 of those. And the only place that really matters is in the difficult 8-man raids, so, that's why you see so much discussion about, 1 tank being behind. Even if it's still playable, it's not a matter of that to people. People want them to be as close to equal as possible so they don't get, shafted because their shit does like 3 to 5% less DPS or is 3 to 5% less efficient altogether than the other jobs that they're competing for spots for. So as much as I want to say 1 tank, 1 healer, I have a hard time believing, on the other hand, that we'll be in such a spot in the game state where people can accept a game that has 4 tanks, 4 healers. And no, I don't see them increasing the raid size to increase the amount of tanks and healers that would become available. It would also increase the number of DPS that were playable in a given instance, but I think we're more likely to see more content where what you're playing is less relevant. And I don't mean easier raids. I mean things like, like Eureka, like the deep dungeons, places where role is the less important thing, and then it becomes about only this one piece of content, which still becomes the center focus of all the conversations regarding job balance, because who the hell cares and anything else? Who gives a shit what makes a dungeon easier unless you're going for, I guess, speed runs, like legitimate, competing for speed runs kind of thing. I don't know, that's just how I feel about it. There's no way they add 2 new DPS, no matter what they said last time about them. Just adding what they thought was, what matched their ideas. I think they will strive to have a tank and a healer in the next one, regardless of what people say about, having 4 tanks, 4 healers, but only 2 slots for each of them in the raid. Alright, so I had to skip a question. It was actually a pretty interesting read, but it also wasn't a question. It was an explanation of some of the different Greek names for the different elements for Eureka. So if you go to the forums and you just scroll to reply number 8, you'll see a whole big explanation of, different words for lightning, thunder, ice, things like that aren't just as the static things we've been saying, like Cryos and Hydros and Chronos, for potential other names for the new Eureka zones. So for the last question we have here, since I'm not doing a live on Twitch one, hey Mrhappy, Final Sim here, welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, give me some Mondays week, I'm sure you ask questions, you answer. So the first question, another gem question, man. I feel like I answer this question every week. I think you need to just Google it. Because, I mean, it's literally, I have this many gems, what should I do every week? And it's like, I tell you every week, and it's like, so I have 94,000 gems right now, referring to the city of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, hoarding for Jekt. Just so you know, Jekt is like going to be like 8-9 months away. I can't say that with any certainty. We got chapters 6 and 7 pretty quick, and I believe Jekt is chapter 11. Now, that being said, at minimum, that's 4 or 5 months away. And there's no way you'll need that many gems for a single part. I say that, but you could also have some complete shit luck. You do whatever you want with the gems, dude. Just look up what's coming up and what order, and, look up tier lists and things like that for Opera Omnia. Because that's going to be a lot better than asking me every week, hey, I have all these gems, what should I do with them? And 2, I read somewhere that characters become level 60. Not all of them. Is that true? I don't know if Jekt has his awakening yet. I want to assume Jekt does not have his level 60 awakening just yet. I'm very liable to be wrong, though, because I actually don't know the answer. But yeah, so the way that character unlocks work in Opera Omnia, if you've ever played Record Keeper, it kind of works similarly. Basically, characters, every patch or so, for a while in the Japanese version, they've been raising like 3 characters up to level 60. It's not every patch, but like every so often they do a patch that raises a few characters, raises their character level to 60, and it raises their awakening level to 60. And the amount and the skills that they get going from crystal level 50 to 60 are usually very, very substantial and have a lot to do with how those jobs are either balanced or rebalanced in the first place. So I'm not 100% sure how it's handled. That's my general understanding of it in Opera Omnia. But I also don't know when the first level 60 awakening, or the level 60, yeah, the level 60 awakening is going to be happening. So I'd have to do a Google search, and I'm not doing that right this second. So, and I don't know if Jack becomes level 60. He will at some point, but I don't know if he is now. I just don't know how they're handling that. But anyway, that's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. A shorter one, which works out for me because I've still got some other stuff to record, so that'll make this render a whole lot faster. Again, thank you to our patrons who we shouted out at the top of the show. Thank you everyone for watching. And if you have questions, be sure to check out the description of the video. There should be a link to the Dream Network forums down there. And also every Sunday, barring days that I travel, which I will be traveling again in 2 weeks, barring Sundays where I'm not in town, I do live stream Mondays with Mr. Happy being recorded on Sundays, usually around 12:30 Pacific, and I'll answer some live questions from the Twitch chat during that time as well. So be sure to stop by if you can't ask questions on the Dream Network forums. Is there anything else I want to say? No, just some of the stuff from the top of the show. I could repeat that, but I won't. So now I'm tired. I'm going to get some coffee because I've only had shitty airport coffee, so I probably want to make some of my own. Thank you for watching. I will see all of you for the next week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. And by then, I'll hopefully have my English in sorts. But anyway, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.